Okay, welcome back. Pal Cullen inside. Today I just want to talk about managing relationships, how I'm managing relationships now, and also talk about unequally yoked relationships too. I might even give some examples based on my own personal experience with that. Okay. I've been in a few. Alright. So I understand a few things. I've experienced a few things. Anyway, in the last video, I spoke about the season of isolation. Okay, I said the season of isolation will last at least 7 years. Your season of isolation will be a minimum of 9 months. Like, we're talking about a rebirth essentially. So to term is around 9 months. So just think of it like that. Yeah. And like I said, it's a season. It's not supposed to last forever. It shouldn't last forever. When you're isolated for an extended period, the enemy will attack you because you're alone. If one can overpower him who is alone, two can stand against him. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly torn apart or easily broken. The 7 years I was referring to is in relation to romantic relationships. You should be intentionally single so you can build and develop a relationship with Yahweh and focus on your personal growth and development. Yeah, that should put you in a position to be a priest, to be a provider, and to be a protector in your home. 3 pillars of manhood: priest, provider, protector. No man is an island. There's no such thing as a self-made man, but you've got to learn to be comfy on your ones and not codependent. Codependent people struggle to say no and are generally people pleasers. They need validation. As a disciple of Christ, in this world, you're going to be disliked. You may even be hated. Yeah, if the world hates you, just know that the world hated me first, innit? Like Jesus said that. Learn to be comfy on your ones, yeah, and able to say no to people. But anyway, moving on to stakeholders. Sorry, managing relationships, yeah. Once you've passed and come out of the season of isolation, like I said, your relationships will tend to change in it. You're gonna have to form new relationships. Your old relationships will most likely end or change significantly. You want people that align with your mission and your vision, and once God gives you your assignment, the people you need and don't need in your life should become very clear to you. In business, there's a concept called stakeholders, all right? Or there's a term called stakeholders. The stakeholders are the individuals or groups that have an interest in an organization. And in your personal life, you'll have stakeholders. You'll have individuals and even groups that will have an interest in your development and success. So you've got internal and you've got external stakeholders. Employees and managers are considered internal. Customers and investors are external. Now, each stakeholder will have their own objectives, and their objectives may conflict with each other. And you can't please everyone, innit? So you have to manage them effectively. And to do that, in strategic management, you've got Mendelow's power interest matrix. So you'll have people in your life that will have a high level of power and a high level of interest. And these people would be considered key players. So you'll have God, you may have your wife or your husband in that category, your parents, depending on your age, and your children go into that category. They'll be key players. They have a high level of power and they have a high level of interest, right? So if you think about it, that's going to be your top right hand corner, okay, top right. Now, top left, you will have high level of power and low level of interest. And these people, you want to keep satisfied. In your personal life, you shouldn't really have people in this category. Like, if you do, you need to lock them off. In general, these people are usually toxic people. Yeah, they have a high level of power, but don't have your best interest at heart in it. Now, you definitely don't want someone toxic with a high level of power. They can potentially destroy you. But a lot of people tend to have a toxic person in their life with a high level of power. Yeah, that's just the world that we're living in. In the business world, it's a bit different because you will have external stakeholders, such as regulatory bodies, which have, high level of power, but a low level of interest. Yeah. Now, high level of interest, but a low level of power, which would be your bottom right hand corner. You want to keep these people informed, innit? So, your child may fall into this category. Yeah, your friends will definitely fall into this category, or should fall into this category. Your friends shouldn't be able to influence your decision making that much. And when you have children, like when you become a parent, you know, your children will take priority, which is why I put them into the key player top category. Okay, your friends will fall into the keep informed, high level of interest, low level of power, grid box. Okay, and then in the bottom left hand corner, I hope you can still visualize this with me. You have low level of power and low level of interest. And these people will tend to be acquaintances, okay? And they require minimal effort. Yeah? It's not nice, but they require minimal effort in it. You've got to manage people effectively. And this is just part of it. And you can actually use this matrix to see where you stand in your relationships with people, with other people, innit? So you may fall into the category of an acquaintance to some people. Do you understand? That's just how it is. As you age and when people start having children, they will fall into different categories. Yeah, their position will change in your life. So they may change from, you know, people that you keep informed to people that require minimal effort. Just because, you know, children take up so much time in it. Your relationships with, you know, the mother or the father, yeah, your husband or your wife, yeah, will take up so much time as well. Yeah, it's all about time management, and people will tend to understand this as well. Yeah, like once you pass a certain age, once you pass the age of like 25, just like people have so much to do in it. People have lives to live, commitments. Like a lot of my old friends are now acquaintances, okay, because we're just on two different pathways. Okay, we're heading in two different directions. All right, so I can't really associate with them like that. That's just what happens. I will say though that women will tend to have friends who have a high level of power, because women in general don't like conflict, okay? And thus they're more cooperative. They naturally lean that way. You can tell a lot about a woman by who her friends are and who she associates with. If she's not giving you information on herself, yeah, or if she's trying not to talk about herself that much, then just ask her about her friends, innit? Ask about, you know, who she goes to when she's got a problem or she's got an issue. Like, does she turn to God, or is there a God-fearing person that she turns to, innit, and can talk to? If you don't, then that's a major red flag. That's a major red flag. I was with a woman who had a friend, and her friend was outside, okay? And I told her about it. I said, I'm not feeling it, and I don't think you should be associating with her. It's not a good look for her, innit? Yeah, because when you go out and man them know what she's on, they're going to assume that you're on the same things too, innit? Naturally. And it's going to cause problems, yeah? Problems that I don't need, problems that I don't particularly want. But I'm not going to force her to drop her friend. She knew her friend before she knew me, innit? Yeah, but eventually she did in the end. What ended up happening though is that she replaced this friend with another one that was outside, innit? But this one was outside, okay? But she was just more discreet with it. Sneaky, a lot worse. And it's always difficult when they have certain friends to start with. Okay, so before you get into a relationship, you've simply got to say, you've got to tell them, because they associate with this person, you can't be with them. Okay, now if they choose to drop that person, then fair enough, innit? But prior to that, it can't run, because it's not just them that you have to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got to deal with their friends as well. Same goes for men. Like, if you have a man that associates with scammers, for instance, yeah, just know that there's potential for it to come back on you. I didn't use the example of a man being a hoe, because in general, men don't tend to sabotage their friends' relationships like that. If his friend's going out, he'll tell the man to sit his ass at home, innit? Like, they'll tell you not to fuck up. A good thing if you've got one, you know, like that. Whereas single women don't, because single women generally don't like being alone, yeah? And they're in competition with each other, yeah? Silently, covertly, they're in competition. Who you associate or affiliate yourself with can negatively impact your reputation. They can do reputational damage. Just think about Adidas and Kanye West, okay? Kanye was out here doing Kanye things and they had to drop him eventually, you know, like that. You'll find a lot of brands will drop people to maintain and protect their reputation. Yeah, because a reputation takes years to build, but can be destroyed in a heartbeat. What people say or do, their actions can have a negative effect on their reputation and the reputation of those they associate with or they've got connections with. Yeah. So even as disciples of Christ, we have to be careful with who we associate ourselves with. Now, fair enough, people may say that, Jesus broke bread with sinners, but it wasn't on a daily basis, and it was with the intent to show them the light and bring them to a place of repentance as well. There are different sources of stakeholder power. You've got positional power, which is basically formal authority. You've got resource power, which is the ability to obtain and control resources. You've got expert power, which is important knowledge or expertise in a given area. And you've got personal power, and these are people that have a good reputation or are extremely likable. Yeah, they have an ability to influence. Now, Yahweh actually fulfills all of them. He's got positional power, he's got formal authority. Whether you like it or not, or believe in it or not, there is someone above you. Yeah, Yahweh is above you. He's got positional power, he's got formal authority. He's got resources as well. He can control and obtain resources. Like everything in the world belongs to him. Do you understand? We're just managers at the end of the day. Yeah. He's got expert power as well. He knows everything. He knows the past. He knows the present. He knows the future. Yeah. So you better make sure that you're satisfying Yahweh, because he's your major key player. Now, there are 4 ways to resolve competing stakeholder objectives. There's satisfying, which is basically negotiation. And, you may negotiate with your wife or your husband. Yeah. If you're a child, you may try and negotiate with your parents. My daughter tries to negotiate with me all the time. Yeah. You've got side payments. Yeah. You may pay them off. All right. So let's say, for instance, if you've upset your husband or your wife, or even you've upset your child, yeah, you tend to pay them off. All right. You buy them things. You've got sequential attention, which is basically just dealing with one at a time. And you've got exercise of power, okay? And parents will tend to use this, isn't it? This is the trump card. Yeah, what I say goes on the parent, like that. Now, you're not negotiating with Yahweh. You can't pay him off, and you have no power to exercise with Yahweh. So you better make sure that you're satisfying him. Do you understand? Because he's a key player in your life, innit? Anyone that draws you away from God is not God's sent, okay? It doesn't even make sense. God is a jealous God and says that you shall worship no other God before me. And as I've said before, we tend to make idols out of our relationships. Like, it's very easy to do because we were created to serve and we were created to worship. And we tend to feel most fulfilled when serving someone other than ourselves, okay? However, God can make good, and usually does make good, out of a bad situation. But if you follow the order of events or operations, if you do the math, that person was not God sent, even if you've been able to grow closer to God as a result. Okay? So always bear that in mind. Yeah? And the devil will usually send people into your life, counterfeits. They appeal to your flesh. They tend to appeal to your flesh and not to your spirit. Okay? As men, you'll often get drawn away, like it's happened to me. You've always got to evaluate these people against God's standard. The word says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership have righteousness and lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? Personally, I've been in a few unequally yoked relationships, all right? Yeah, I've been on both sides of the equation. I've been in a situation where the woman was trying to pursue God, and I was just out here living my life. Yeah, I wasn't pursuing God. And I've been in a situation where I wanted to pursue God, but the woman that I was with wasn't really on it. And it brings up conflicts because what they desire is not what God desires. Do you understand? Or not what you should pursue, because they're pursuing worldly things. How can two people walk together if they don't agree? Now, in terms of being unequally yoked, it's coming from an agricultural reference. Okay, it's coming from a farming reference. Historically, you would have two animals of a similar size that are yoked together through a piece of wood in it, with a piece of wood or a piece of plank. When they're tending to the land, They should be a similar size so they can both head into the same direction. When you have a weaker animal, or an animal, just a different animal completely. Let's say, for instance, you've got an ox and you've got a donkey. The ox will be pulling the donkey in one direction, but the ox will be hindered because the donkey isn't strong enough to move at the pace that the ox is moving at. And you can potentially hurt the donkey as well. Okay, the donkey could break his neck. Do you understand? So it's not going to be a nice experience. All right. Now, let's say you've got two oxes. One's bad and one's good, innit? One listens, one doesn't. Yeah, they're both equally strong. The bad ox is going to be pulling in one direction, and the good ox is going to be pulling in another direction. It's counterproductive. It's not going to work. The field is not going to be tended to. All right. And this is what it's basically talking about. Now, I've been in a situation where the girl that I was with, she was pursuing God, innit? She was trying to walk the righteous path. I wasn't really about that life. I wasn't on it, innit? And I think at the time she wanted to do it, at the time she, went down in the water, I was thinking, should we even be in a relationship anymore? What she desires is not going to be what I desire. But, because we were in a relationship and, she felt away from me, she wanted to continue. And ultimately that relationship ended. And at the time we were on and off for years, innit? And I think one time we got back together, she was like, she couldn't be in a relationship with me anymore because she found herself making me an idol and putting me on a pedestal, innit? She found herself willfully sinning and enjoying it. And that was bad as a person trying to walk the righteous path that can't run in it. And she said to me that she'll have to end the relationship. And for me, I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't understand why, like that. It didn't make sense to me. But I wasn't a God-fearing individual at the time. Not to the extent that I should have been. Not to the extent that, let's say, she was. When it came to a time where I'm trying to pursue God, but I've made this woman an idol now, and I find myself willfully sinning, I should really lock off the relationship. Like that. Eventually, it came to a point where she done things that, made the relationship untenable. Obviously, there's blame on both sides on that. But that relationship ended. Let's say that, innit? And for me, I was told this at the start. So it's really my own fault because the last relationship I was in, the woman actually said to me, yo, I never thought that I would be with a pastor's son. Do you understand? Like, she's just not on it like that. Do you understand? Now, I wasn't living, obviously I was a bad breed pastor's son. I was on that side at the time, but I had the intention, I wanted to start pursuing God, innit? But this girl appealed to my flesh, innit? Yeah, she appealed to my fleshly nature. I thought that, we can walk this path together and that. But yeah, it just didn't happen like that at all. I don't want to really go into it too much, but it never works. Okay, it never works. Previously, I would have said that I was in an equally yoked relationship because let's say I wasn't living a life of discipleship. I wasn't being a disciple of Christ at the time, yeah. And the person that I was with obviously wasn't a Christian either. Yeah, she wasn't following God or following the righteous path. We were both chasing worldly success and pursuing worldly stuff. We're both educated. We both come from a similar background. Parents are Jamaican. Yeah, that's our culture. Yeah. So in that essence, we're equally yoked. There's things that we can discuss. Our interests are aligned as well. I was studying accountancy and finance. She was studying accounting and business, I believe. Yeah, accounting and business, and then went into HR. So in that essence, from a educational point of view and from even a financial point of view, we were both, or a social economic point of view, we were equally yoked. Okay. However, when God speaks to you, or when you feel God's call on your life, then everything changes. Okay, because your value system, your intention, your decision to walk the righteous path is going to be so counter to what they're pursuing. Yeah, and the whole reason why they were in a relationship was because you had similar interests. You can't be that person you were at the beginning, clearly, because that's changed now. Do you understand? So that relationship's dead. So it's always difficult when you're in a relationship. It's even more difficult when you're in a marriage and you get called by God, yeah, or you feel the call of God on your life. Do you know what I'm saying? It's very, very difficult because that relationship, more time, is going to have to end. You can't be one person serving God and pursuing God and the other person pursuing the world. You know, like that. It's just not going to work. I was watching a video where Tim Keller was speaking about this, and he basically said it like this, okay? As a Christian or as a disciple, God should be the center of your life. If you are in a relationship with a person that doesn't put God center of their life, what will happen is you will move God to the outskirts, or somebody has to move to the outskirts. It's either God's center or that person is center. A person is going to feel very alone and isolated if they're on the outskirt of your life. It's challenging when you're already in a relationship and then God calls you. It's one of the most difficult things to do. So it's best that, you build a relationship with God, with Yahweh first, especially as a man. And then from there, you pick who you associate with. You choose, or you set the criteria for who you want to get into a romantic relationship with according to God's word. Just to speak on missionary dating, okay, if you don't know what missionary dating is basically where you have a disciple of Christ who believes that if they get into a relationship with a person, that person will eventually come to know Christ and become a disciple of Christ as well. It doesn't tend to work. It don't work out like that most of the time, okay? In the Bible, it talks about a man being won over by a godly woman, yeah? It doesn't reference a godly man winning over a pagan woman, yeah? Historically, a woman was given away, like she had no choice in it. I have yet to see a godly man win over a pagan woman. 9 times out of 10, the pagan woman causes the man to fall. As I've said before, love is sacrificial in nature. A man who loves a woman will sacrifice for her and put her best interest first, okay? So if a godly man sees that this woman values the wrong things or values worldly things, he's not going to entertain her because she will draw him away from God, innit? She just will. That's just how it's going to be, innit? Because in an attempt to provide value and the things she desires, he will end up pursuing worldly things, because it's all about being able to add value at the end of the day, innit? If you have a woman who values God, fears God, pursues God, he will pursue the things she desires in an attempt to provide value, yeah? Paul even said, one who is married is concerned about the things of the world, how he may please his wife, and his interests have been divided. That's why it's important that your interests are in alignment. Like that. One cannot serve 2 masters. Any kingdom divided against itself is laid to waste, and any city or house divided against itself will not stand. You want to make sure that the people in your circle are moving as one. Yeah. So you've got a shared vision, you've got a shared culture, you've got a shared value system. Now, if you're all believers or disciples of Jesus, Yahweh, then you should have a shared culture. You should have this shared vision and shared mindset, okay? There may be some differences, like your journeys or your objectives, your missions may be a bit different, but fundamentally they're the same, okay? You're not pursuing the world, like that. Now, you should have at least 4 to 5 people around you with a high level of interest. Only a handful, so you've got 1 hand free for you to either attack or defend with. 5 is the all-star team, yeah? Let's put it that way. 5 is gang, that's squad, innit? That's the all-star team. More than 5 is impractical. My squad was my mum, my dad, my sister, and myself. Add God in, that's 5, innit? And it's important that you get to understand the different personalities within your team, like their strengths and their weaknesses. Your family is generally the squad that you're given at birth, okay? Mother, father, 2 kids, potentially 3 if you got the funds, yeah? Me, myself, INTP ego, ENTJ shadow. My sister, she was INFJ ego. My mum, ENFJ ego. My dad was ISFJ ego. and our personalities actually complement each other. Okay. Unfortunately, I only figured this out recently, and my mum passed away shortly before that. So we didn't get to accomplish all the things we potentially could have. And, you know, our kingdom was divided. We wasn't moving as one. Like I said, like I was a bad breed pastor's kid. You know, like that. I was just moving in a totally different direction. I wasn't concerned about church or anything for a long period of time. We haven't accomplished or achieved a lot of the things that we could have. You want to keep your friends informed. Yeah. Low level of power, high level of interest. You want to look after your key players who have a high level of power and a high level of interest. And you definitely want to make sure you're satisfying Yahweh. Yeah. High level of power, high level of interest. Really, he should be in his own category, to be fair. But yeah, this is just a video on managing relationships and also talking about unequally yoked relationships as well. I hope you found this video valuable. If you did, then, you know, hit the like button. And if you think that, you know, someone you know or a friend may find it valuable, then share it with them. Feel free to do that. And also hit the notification bell as well. Yeah, Pel Cullen, I hope you have a blessed week, and I will see you next time. See you next week. Next week, Monday, I should be posting again. Okay.